Welcome to the Unshackled Life Podcast. Real talk about faith, freedom, and following Jesus. I'm Dalen Woodard, and I'm glad you're here. Whether you've been walking with Jesus for years or you're just trying to figure out what's real in a noisy world, this space is for honest conversation, raw reflection, and truth that sets us free. Let's get into today's episode. Life handed me a reminder today of a lesson I thought long learned. When you win a fight, it doesn't always mean the threat is gone. Be careful how much you relax your guard. This is just me sharing a little of my experience, strength, and hope for those who might be helped by hearing it, while once more destroying any false notions that years of faith or years of recovery mean being immune to danger. None of us are made perfect on this side of eternity, not even ministers. I woke this morning in a bad place after too much time spent in PTSD dreams through the night. By the time I finished my morning time with God, I was in a much better place. And before I left my devotions behind, I had something come to me I'll be using when I reach Matthew 14 in the verse-by-verse teaching through that book. I felt better. When Leah and I left for town to run some errands and spend some time together playing Pokemon Go, I actually felt happy and pretty good. But under that was a buzz of anger and readiness that I didn't even notice. It was so negligible compared to the battle of the morning, I had slipped into autopilot. Autopilot isn't always bad, but it can be dangerous. We stepped into a crosswalk and were making our way across the traffic in the rain, I might add, when someone in a truck honked at us. I don't know if he was just in that big of a hurry or if he is actually ignorant of who has the right-of-way in said situation. But I never had a conscious thought. The horn honked. I reacted. I turned in anger and challenge, fully ready to fight if he returned that challenge. He kept driving off, which is very good, but there I was, standing in the rain, ready to fight a stranger who really hadn't done anything to me. Not a good look, an even worse feeling. It didn't take more than a few seconds to get my grace face back in place and reset to the new me, who would be happy to go the rest of his life without ever having to fight again. To reboot Love Your Neighbor 2.0. And reinstall the eternal filter. That reminder that very little that aggravates me today will matter in 5 days or 5 years, much less eternity. What's embarrassing about moments like this is that they're usually over things that wouldn't matter for 5 seconds had I simply not reacted and taken the time to think. That's why I need to continually walk in conscious grace. My instincts, my defaults, at least some of them, are still programmed wrong from early system corruption. The Sanctification antivirus is working, but it's a process. Going through the day actively asking for and relying on grace and remembering that I can't, but He can, almost always gives me a few seconds to check which program is trying to engage and choose. The new me or the old me. That's what grace does. It gives us the freedom to think before reacting or acting. It gives us the freedom to override old programming and not do what we, at least part of us, want to do when there is a conflict between the old system and the new. I suspect many might hope or wish what I was saying is that grace makes it all go away always. Well, sometimes it does, but not always. The buzz is still there. Glitches of old programs trying to run in a new system not designed for it, that are humming under the surface, threatening to flare up at frustrations, tempting me with the promise of a power boost if I will simply let the juice flow. I ran on anger a long time, And grace enables me to gut up without having to get angry first. Grace enables us to walk through the storm without being blown off course. But it doesn't always eliminate the storm or even keep us from getting wet. And maybe that's the real lesson in moments like this. The Bible tells us in 1 Peter 5:8 to be sober-minded and watchful, because our adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Sometimes the danger isn't a big, obvious temptation. Sometimes it's just old programming booting up before we even realize it. But God didn't leave us helpless with that old programming. Galatians 5:16 says, "Walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh." Grace gives us the space to choose which program runs. Sometimes that means stopping the old system before it boots up. And sometimes it means hitting the reset button quickly when we realize it already has. Either way, grace reminds us of the same truth. The old man doesn't have to run the system anymore. The God of all mercies is a faithful and ever-present help in time of need. But he doesn't run the grace program without our cooperation, because it's not just about ridding our systems of the old programming. It's about building relationship with the new systems manager. Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Unshackled Life podcast. If it encouraged, blessed, or challenged you, consider following the podcast and sharing it with someone you feel it might bless or help. Be blessed, and remember, when you fix your thoughts on God and build your thinking on the foundation of His truth, God fixes your thoughts.